it's going to be a bit more creative presentation now. Relax, look, no huge numbers all the time. This is a hot topic, which is, I'd say, my favorite one. For longest time I've been creating interior and exterior visualizations and simple illustration materials as well. And for the longest time, this process looked something like this. You start with a simple SketchUp model, which is rendered with any kind of application, like a V-Ray, Enscape, Podium, to get the main reflections, some materiality, and then the rest is just Photoshop. Adding trees, people, cars, and these kinds of things, trying to estimate the proportion of things. Well, the end result is if you're not very proficient in Photoshop, then it's going to look very flat and not too realistic. Of course, with some knowledge you could create a very realistic scene. And in most tutorials you'll see online on YouTube, the whole process of creating an exterior visualization is at least 50% Photoshop. One problem is that if something changes design-wise, or a client asks to change the angle a bit, you have to remake everything. It's not easy to move elements and retain the perspective and scale. So it's a few new tools that have appeared in the last few years. SketchUp visualizations look like this now. Practically indistinguishable from ones you make in 3D Max, Maya, Blender. Huge scenes with a single tape that could hold about millions of polygons. And the tools you'll need for this kind of workflow is, of course, SketchUp itself. I've added the prices to just understand at least what's the value of this kind of combo compared to something like 3D Max. So SketchUp V-Ray are both with subscription options, even for V-Ray it's monthly or yearly. Then there is Skatter tool to show how to scatter any kind of component in SketchUp, be trees or grass in a realistic way. And Laubwerk, which is one of the easiest to use vegetation libraries. It comes in separate libraries, where, for instance, one library is with these kinds of trees. One is with evergreen trees, others are with bushes or flowers. And for the longest time I had also been using Photoshop to create, let's say, the final steps to make a visualization very realistic. But I'd suggest you try Affinity Photo, which is right now, I'd say, the closest thing to Photoshop. And it's not, how is it now, 20 euros a month, but a permanent license for 55 euros. It can be installed on multiple computers. And starting with a simpler workflow about V-Ray itself. How many people have used V-Ray or any rendering tools? Maybe Imatis, of course. Others. So rendering plugins in SketchUp would allow you to create lights and add parameters to materials so they would reflect light in certain ways to create realism. So it's the same scene, just rendered with V-Ray. Starting from a bit more simple way how to create visualization in SketchUp. What is empty, boring garden? Using photo match tool in SketchUp, you can match the perspective and scale for it. Then you can draw the basic terrain and add various vegetation elements. Mostly in 3D warehouse, you'll see them as 2D face me trees, which are seen here as well. If you ever tried to download the 3D tree from 3D warehouse, you know one can be enough to crash SketchUp, as SketchUp hasn't the ability to natively degrade the quality of objects, to substitute a high poly model with a simpler one. So one way how to do it is using layers and scenes. Here, for instance, on one layer I have a 2D face me tree, and on another one a 3D one. In this instance, it's a tree from Laubwerk, which looks right now not so realistic, but once I render it out, it becomes like a real tree. So you have to manage the layers, different kinds of variations of components to allow you to work faster, not to crash SketchUp with high poly trees. And another thing you can do is create an option for a plan view. So inside the component, I would have these three basic layers. It's planned face me variant, 3D, and a plan view, which I usually just lift a bit higher than the 0, so you could get this drop shadow. Looks a bit more interesting in plan views. All of these components have an axis origin at the center of the object. So, for instance, if I had a whole library of these kinds of various objects, then I could so click in Components, Window, and insert it inside of SketchUp. And when I change the scene that changes which layers are active, I get the face me or plan view component. Or for instance, if I walk in the plan view, it to come inside SketchUp as this kind of component. This is a preview how exterior scene could look straight from SketchUp. And once I render it, you can see all the 3D grass, trees, and a little bit of fog from V-Ray. You could create it as a really realistic scene. And the best thing about Laubwerk, these three libraries, is that all the trees come in different variants. For instance, I opened the Laubwerk library. I can insert a maple tree inside my model, and from the plant attributes editor, choose from 9 variants. Is it going to be a young tree, middle-aged, or fully grown? And depending on the type of visualization you need, you can also change the season. As for instance, if I select winter, when I render it out, there won't be any leaves. For instance, in many Nordic countries, they have an obligatory term that in contests they need to show a winter variant of exterior scene. So that's a great way to change it instantly. Other options are just to increase, decrease the leaf density, and a great thing is that they come with materials already set up to look good with V-Ray. Yesterday they released an update as well that improved the quality of specular highlights on all the leaves. These components can be seen in the Lauberg free kit, so you can try them at home as well, how they look. If you need any extra ones, then look at Laubwerk libraries. That's Laubwerk, but in Skatter has an option to choose from different kinds of grass, rocks, gravel, bushes and trees, and insert them inside of SketchUp as a simplified model. For instance, if I choose a tree, I select an option to insert it as a proxy. So if I look at Skatter dialog box, I can choose to pick individual points where I'm gonna place these trees. They all come inside of SketchUp a bit different because they have randomization in their rotation and scale. Once I would start rendering this scene, hopefully not crash SketchUp right now, you'll see these trees appear like proper 3D ones. If I use Laubwerk trees, you can see the same thing. The difference is that I actually have something to look at. If if I only populate the model with scatter objects, unless I check the specific one and press preview, I can't see it. So with Skatter I could also select, I just choose some grass, medium length, and I can apply it to a specific group. And after clicking, you can see how it is distributed on this plane. I choose a different kind of grass, taller one, that I'm gonna use on these outer planes. And I'll combine them with some rocks. They come in distributed randomly. If you don't like this placement, then you can choose a new seed for randomization. And I can pick some daisies as well to put on the grass that was cut lower. So hopefully again, I'm not gonna crash SketchUp. Need to wait until all of the geometry is loaded in V-Name's memory, and only then it can start to show it as a real-time render. But the end result will be something like this. Here we had some extra bushes scattered around and a lot more trees. For this kind of resolution render to finish, of course you will have to wait at least an hour for a good quality one. If it's a 4K render, of course, you might have to leave it overnight. That's the thing about exterior renderings. In interiors, you could speed up everything a lot while using denoising and these kinds of special tools, but in exterior renders you need all the detail you can get. And for instance, if you want to see every blade of grass, you need to render at maximum quality really. There are a few very interesting features in Skatter as well. You don't have to only choose objects that are in the Skatter library. You could create a new Skatter list. Choose your own objects. For instance, I'll choose this tree from Laubwerk. And I can, again, distribute it either by placing it in specific points, or choosing a plane. In this instance, I have, I guess, a few thousand of trees in this area, so I would need to lower the count of items density. In this new scattered set, all the trees would appear in the same rotation and scale, so I just check rotation and scale for the random transform. And I can set what are the maximum limits for this modification. So I saved all the changes in Skatter and render it again. And after a few minutes, I can start the interactive rendering. A few examples. So, a SketchUp scene would look something like this, and once rendered, you would see all the high quality trees. So. These other objects you see are V-Ray proxies. V-Ray also has this option to transform any object into a proxy form. So once rendered, it's only going to appear in its highest quality. And with V-Ray proxies, there's also this option of importing objects that are made, for instance, in 3D Max and animated. So the trees will, for instance, move in the wind. So for some reason I don't see the trees. Generation failed. Well, for some instance, it's failing right now. But another thing I wanted to show is an option how you could show existing terrain, trees, and for buildings inside your SketchUp model. There will be two options. Both would involve using a drone. So if you have one laying around, you can, well, at least DJI Mavic for better results. You can use photogrammetry tools to, first, the drone would take photos of a specific area, and these photos will be combined to create a 3D model, which then can be imported inside of SketchUp. In this instance, I also separated the terrain, simplified it a bit, and photogrammetry programs usually also allow you to create a high quality orthographic orthophoto, which can be simply projected on the terrain you created. In this project, we scanned the terrain, the surroundings, and also the foundation in a bit higher quality and combine them together to use later for visualization of building. So inside of SketchUp it looks something like this. With the high quality ortho-photo, a file would of course weigh something like 350 megabytes, but at least you don't have to waste a lot of time trying to create terrain from, for instance, topographic draftings. It's just actually 1 day's work to go create the terrain model with, for instance, Agisoft or Recap from Autodesk, and then bring it inside SketchUp. Another interesting option is to use the same model that was created in, for instance, Agisoft, and using a tool called Undet for SketchUp, bring it inside as a point cloud. It takes just a few seconds. And what I see is millions of points that represent the same model. Change the background a bit. And the thing is, this kind of model is much lighter than the one I would bring from as an OBJ file inside of SketchUp. It's quite light, easy to navigate inside. Of course, as right now there isn't any geometry inside the model. I don't have an object to orbit around, so I'd say a must is something like the simplest 3D mouse that allows you to move around much easier. So what Undet would allow me to do is also create actual geometry from this point cloud. I can represent it as well, for instance, as a height map. If I wanted to, I could also isolate specific parts of this point cloud if I wanted to focus on some objects. For instance, I simply scale it down so I don't see the trees and update the point cloud to see it. They have a lot of work for SketchUp right now. All the files open. A few years ago, I already had some experience working with earlier versions that owned it for historical reconstructions. So not using photogrammetry, but laser scanning as one building in Riga, which is only the facade walls left really, and now they're trying to say what's left using scanning and seeing how, I guess right now, how fast it's gonna break down. So yeah, I isolated the model. So if I wanted to create terrain in this place, for instance, I have some feature extraction tools. For instance, I can set, I'm going to make a plane here. One that estimates what's the closest thing they can show that's kind of flat. Rotate it. And use the convert to mesh tool, which would allow me to subdivide this plane, and it's gonna be, so I'm gonna subdivide in a mesh with, say, 2,000 faces, and all the vertex points are gonna be brought to the closest point cloud. So this is the terrain I get out. Isolated, you can see. The same thing could be done for walls, for roofs. There are a lot of topics I quickly went through, maybe, or you could already ask some questions and I could dive in a bit deeper in some of the plugins that are interesting.
Vai kas nāc ar klausumu?